It's not a joke. I really saw it. And now I'm going to do a Rob Watches on My Little Pony the movie. Not to be confused with My Little Pony the movie. Does that technically make this a remake? So before I talk about the movie, I guess I should talk about the TV show, because I very rarely talk about it. And that's because I don't watch it. I just don't. I remember it premiering way back when on the Hub, but I really didn't think much of it. I was mostly interested in stuff I like Transformers Prime, one of my favorite Transformers cartoons, G.I. Joe Renegades, which is another show I really like, and a bunch of other stuff that they had that they reran on the Hub while they were filling up their airwaves. But I never really paid much attention to My Little Pony. That's because I had no interest in watching it. However, at the time, I started to notice a lot of older people really liking the show, and I guess it wasn't that unusual since a lot of older people who like Transformers and G.I. Joe, like me, were watching the other shows. I figured, maybe some older fans of the show, the original show, were watching it or something like that. But I began to notice that there's a lot of men who watched it too, and I was like, okay, whatever. Maybe some of them liked it, or maybe it's just the internet, because the internet's full of weirdos. Then I noticed that the number of fans the show was getting was increasing dramatically, very, very fast, and I began to wonder, what's going on? I thought just a bunch of weirdos liked the show, but then more and more people started liking it. People I know, people like friends of mine, were obsessing over the show, so I decided, what the heck, I'll watch a little bit of it. So, years ago, in an undisclosed location, disconnected from the internet, disconnected from any phone lines, completely in solitude, wearing a tinfoil hat over my head, I decided to watch season 1 of My Little Pony, and you know what? I kind of understood. It was actually not a bad show, and I thought it was done very well. It was very well animated. It was very vibrant. It had very distinguishable characters, which is more than I can say from some of the previous versions, because honestly, I have seen the original My Little Pony the movie, as well as the pilot where that demon guy tries to take over and everything. And to be honest, I don't think I could tell any of them apart. So I thought season 1 was good, but I could not consider myself a fan of it. I have watched a few episodes here and there, mostly through other friends, because they forced me to, and I've gotten the gist of a lot of more, I guess, important episodes through watching other people's videos and things like that. I don't consider myself a fan of the show. However, I do feel the show is good enough to have garnered my respect. They turned nothing, what is essentially nothing, into something, and I think that is something to be proud of. But while I am not a fan of the show, I think I do know enough about it. I have the gist of what it's about. I'm familiar with at least the main characters and everything. So, for the most part, I will be judging this movie at face value. However, if there is some sort of important plot thing that happens in a specific episode of the show that I miss, that happens in this movie, you're just gonna have to deal with it, alright? I like I said, I don't watch the show much, so there's things that I still don't know. So just chill out. Don't make me get the hose. I'll try my best to avoid any major spoilers as well for anyone who's yet to see the movie. There are a few things I do want to bring up, but I'll try to keep it as vague as possible. So the ponies are having yet another friendship celebration or something, as they are wont to do in the series, until a guy named the Storm King sends his evil army of baboons, I think, to go wreck stuff in the kingdom and take over. But Twilight and her friends escape, and they have to go off and find the hippogriffs, which can apparently help them fight off these villains. I like that they have to travel through this really harsh desert, and then they go to this town where it's full of thieves and shifty characters and all kinds of nasty things, which kind of proves a theory I've had about the series. and it's that everything outside of the Pony Kingdom is just a hellish landscape. And yeah, you know, the ponies, they have problems too, but everything always works out, right? Yeah, it ain't like that in the rest of the world. Some of us gotta work for a living, you know. So I think we knew this movie was gonna be a musical. And I'm not a fan of musicals. There's some that I like, but for the most part, I'm just not really into them. Thankfully, the songs in this movie are very, you know, spread out, so it's not so bad. They did open up the movie with a parody song of "We Got the Beats," which immediately pissed me off, and I'm not even that big a fan of that song. The one thing that killed me, though, is that there were at least 2 moments in this movie where breaking out into a musical number completely changed someone's mind. It's like, no, we gotta do things this way, and the ponies are like, oh yeah, and then here's a song, and then suddenly we're like, well, I guess we never saw it that way. Let's go help the ponies or whatever. Again, not familiar with the series, not overly familiar with the series, but was this a thing? Like, did this happen very often? Also, again, not overly familiar with the series. However, I do know how things work in the series, and they usually have some kind of conflict going on in every season where it's like, oh, something's jeopardizing our friendships. The ponies, they're not going to be friends anymore, or something like that. And that basically happens in this movie. So, am I missing something here? I mean, this could have been just an episode of the series, right? What exactly is this movie doing different? Also, a couple of dumb moments in this movie. There's a scene where they get captured by, like, sky pirates or something, and then they were going to make them walk the plank off of their airship, and they were freaking out, and I'm like, 3 of you can fly! I mean, this should not be an issue. I mean, again, am I missing something here? Why were they freaking out? 3 of them have wings. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't they friends with, like, the god of chaos or something? Where was he when all this mess was going on? Because the kingdom got invaded, and that's like his friends, right? And that's his whole thing. Like, he changed his ways and he became friends with them. So when the kingdom was in jeopardy, like, why wasn't he around? Like, why didn't he stop them? He could have just rained hellfire on these guys. I think the biggest issue, though, was the whole plot of this movie was to find the hippogriffs, right? Well, they found the hippogriffs, and they were completely pointless. They had no reason to be in this movie. They made it seem like, you know, they were really important. They were the only ones that can solve this problem. Well, no, they didn't. The ponies solved this on their own. They didn't need the hippogriffs. One of them came along to, like, help out, but that whole subplot could have just been completely removed from this movie, and it wouldn't have made a difference. Okay, I better say something nice about this movie before someone kills me. I liked the side characters. I liked all the characters they met on their journey. When they went to that town of thieves, they met this, like, cat guy. He was kind of cool. The sky pirates that they meet along the way, the ones that were gonna, like, make them walk the plank, they were pretty cool, especially when they turned to their side. And the hippogriffs were kind of cool too. There was one of them in particular, the main character, the one that comes along with them. I really liked her. She was kind of a playful shut-in. She kind of reminded me of Webigail from the current DuckTales series. There is one character that was on the bad guy's side, and without revealing too much, although people may or may not already know about this, but they kind of go into their backstory and the reason why they joined the Storm King. And when you see this character and you see that they might, you know, make a turn, you'd think that things are going to work out a certain way for them. You think that there's going to be some sort of obvious resolution with them, but I'll give this movie credit. They did not do that. I even kind of like the Storm King. They made him kind of like a campy villain, and I do love me a campy villain. Unfortunately, he didn't really get a lot of screen time, and I was hoping maybe they would have did a little bit more with him, or maybe, you know, brought him over to the show or something, because he was a lot of fun. But again, without revealing too much, let's just say, we're not seeing him ever again. Oh boy. Anybody see Castlevania, the animated series on Netflix? Episode 3. There were a few genuinely funny moments in this too. There was a scene where Rarity was climbing this mountain because they had to climb this mountain to get to where the hippogriffs were, or where they used to be. And she started freaking out. She's like, I can't climb any further. I can't do it. The bad guys won. It's all over. And then one of them was like, we're here. And they're like, the top of the mountain was like right there. So I thought that was pretty funny. There was a funny scene towards the end where they're fighting off the evil baboons, and they're all, they're spreading out, they're fighting them off. And one of them like goes up to Fluttershy, and she's like, do you want to talk it out? And then it cuts back to the others, and then it cuts back to them with him like crying, sitting down. She's like, there, it'll be okay. Stuff like that was really funny. There was another scene when they actually meet the hippogriffs. They converted themselves to like mermaids or something, which is what hid them from, I guess, evil things or whatever. But I liked the queen of the hippogriffs, because when they showed up, they were like, we cannot tell outsiders of our backstory. And then the other girl hippogriff started telling them, and then she was like, all right, go ahead and tell them. It's not like I'm the queen or anything. And then she just swims off. There was another really funny scene when they were actually fighting the baboons, and then the cat guy is helping them, and then he picks up Spike and he starts using him as a flamethrower. Goes almost went full Hank Scorpio there. I thought that was really funny. Although I did get kind of a Disney vibe from this movie. It felt like they borrowed a few things from other Disney movies, like that Thief Town kind of reminded me of Agrabah from Aladdin. I was getting also a little bit of a Treasure Planet vibe. A very underrated Disney movie, by the way, because they had that cat person, and then the air pirates with the airships and all that. Even when they went to the underwater kingdom where the hippogriffs were, I was getting a little bit of a Little Mermaid vibe from it too. Especially with the Princess of the Hippogriffs, because she wanted to go visit the surface world, and the queen rather, was like, no, we can't do it. There was also this little guy on the villain side that kind of looked like one of the experiments from Lilo and Stitch. So overall, speaking as someone who has little to no connection to the animated series, I thought this movie was okay. It was just okay. It had some good moments, it had some bad moments. I'm gonna say the goods might have outweighed the bad a little bit. Just a little bit. I think kids will really enjoy this movie. If you have kids that like My Little Pony, by all means, take them to it. As far as the older fans of the show, I'm not really sure. I've typically stayed away from the Brony community, so I don't really know what people like and what people don't like. I have seen some of y'all's videos, so I'm not really sure. I have a feeling this movie's not going to go over very well, but we'll have to wait and see. Woo! Alright, I talked about My Little Pony. I hope you're all happy. But don't expect me to do this very often. Or at all. Ever again. Because I'm not going to become one of those people on YouTube. You know the kind I'm talking about. The ones that have like a little pony avatar, and they do episode recaps of every single new episode that comes out, and it's not... No! No! We do not do that on this channel. Alright, enough of this. That's all I got for My Little Pony the movie. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day.